So the first thing that, we're okay? All right. The first thing we like to do is we like to start with thinking about what's going on around us. And I think it helps set the perspective for why we built this for our customers and sort of what the experiences they're having are. Public content is relevant, right? So there's a growth and explosion. We're all aware of this, of natural language experiences. We're having public content that is relevant to our businesses. We talk often with some of our customers that are saying things like, news events impact our business, and we want to know about that. News articles are written about us, and we want to understand that. People are mentioning things on social media that obviously has an impact on the brand, the customer service. You know, I'm sure tons of us fly here. How many times when you're having a trouble with the service that you interact with, you're probably tweeting and giving that feedback, right? So there's a lot of this content being generated. The other thing is that, you know, customer engagement has been forever actually, and is increasingly becoming more natural language based. So folks are calling, they're leaving feedback, they're leaving tweets, folks are calling up and having call center conversations about your brand, service, or product. You're getting emails from customers. There's all this feedback coming in. And, you know, so that's really the world around us. And so there's a ton of this information being generated. The thing is, like, when you also think about the technology and the platform is, you know, data lakes are becoming more popular. S3 has brought the cost of storage down considerably. You know, so if you think back, not even 5 years ago, if you want to store a lot of this unstructured content, right? So coming from social media blogs, posts, and reviews, it was pretty expensive to do that in an on-premise SAN, for example. That applies to a lot of data types. But with S3 and, you know, the rest of the AWS services, which we'll talk about how you'll think about them in conjunction with this, these things are becoming really inexpensive and impossible. The other biggest reason we built this, and we think the time is right for this now for our customers, is that training NLP is hard and is expensive. So, you know, when you think about the process of training an NLP model for the folks in the room that haven't done this before, the first step, you know, to follow the cyclical graph here, the first step is collecting data. So you have to go collect a bunch of information. It's not just kind of blindly collecting information. You have to have business acumen. You have to go get support calls. You have to go get news articles. If you want your NLP model to be context or domain aware, you have to go find information in that domain. So marketing content, sales content, finance content. So there's a lot of, and then of course you have to have an engineering team to, you know, connect to that data, pull that data in, clean it, prepare it. We've all heard the story over and over as it relates to the data science process. This is tough. The next thing you need to do to train an NLP model is you have to annotate the data or label the data. So you have to literally open the file itself, and typically, you know, humans do this, we do this, is you go in and you'll label it. So you'll say this is a company, or this is a date, or this is a commercial item, this is a product. And we've done that over millions and millions of documents. But, you know, a lot of our customers call us up and say, this is hard, this is expensive. The last key component to this is the fact that you know, to train an NLP model and to continuously train an NLP model. You don't just do this once and leave it there. This is a process that continues to go over and over. You have to have a data science team. So you have to have engineering collecting data, you have to have annotators annotating data, and then finally you need to have a data science team that's picking the model. They're training the model, they're playing with weights and measures to give you the accuracy that you need from the model. So we've heard from a lot of customers that this is hard, it's expensive, you know, we want a solution here. And then what's actually quite interesting is that this is actually what our team does nonstop for you. Our team staffs with engineers. We start with a business use case of data that we want to be really good at. We collect it. We have a number of annotators that go through and annotate this data, and then we have a data science team, some of them are in this room, that are going and training this model. So this is our value prop to you, is we're removing this burden from you and taking it on ourselves. So we call the service Amazon Comprehend. The service itself is Amazon, it's a natural language processing service. The service itself, we like to say it's fully managed, which means we run it for you, and then we continuously train it for you. That's one of the value props I love the most. We keep doing the previous slide for you over and over. The service itself has 5 core capabilities or features. The first feature is sentiment. So when you think about text analytics, you want to know what someone's saying and what's the sentiment. Are they saying something positive? Are they saying something negative? And we'll go through in detail all these APIs. The next thing is entities. So you look at a set of text, and we'll extract entities, which could be, like I said, commercial items. It could be organizations. It could be people. We'll extract those, and we'll categorize them for you. And again, I'll show that in detail. The third capability is languages. So we identify up to 100 languages. So you could submit language against the service, and we'll tell you what language we think it is, whether it's English or Spanish. We do that up to 100. The sentiment, entities, and key phrases right now works over English and Spanish. And then the fourth API is key phrases. So think of this as common noun-based phrases. So, we'll go through some examples later, you'll see it, but, things that aren't proper nouns, like, we'll catch the rest. And this is really important for NLP, because not only do you want to know what they're saying and how they feel about what they're talking about, but you want to have all the other descriptive words. Then you really understand at scale what's being talked about. What are the mentions? What's the experience? What are the descriptive words that they're using? The fifth capability is something we call topic modeling. So for the folks that are familiar with text analytics, this has been around for a while, we've wrapped that in a really easy-to-use service. So you could submit documents. Topic modeling works really well. It's latent derelict allocation is the algorithm, LDA, and it works really well for taking a large corpus of documents and organizing them into topics, into topic groups, right? And we'll walk you through that detail. Of course, like I said, it's really important to note all these capabilities, this entire service is built off of deep learning approach. That's really critical because text analytics, to be candid, has been around for a while. And it's even built into some database software like Oracle Text and things like that. Our approach is that we want to take a deep learning approach because we'll get more contextual and we will increasingly become more accurate. We're very competitive now. We'll become more accurate over time. What I mean by that is we'll know, that a specific word in context of a sentence, why that means that way, what it means, if you're talking about automobiles or you're talking about food or merchandise. We're contextual over time. So just to kind of give you a quick summary, again, I'm going to fire up the console. We'll look at we'll even paste in I'll type in some real text. We separate those APIs into really two things. One is text analysis. So as I mentioned, this is a sample set of text we've submitted. Named entities would be things like Amazon.com is an organization, Seattle, Washington is a location, and the organization and the location is what we're doing. So we're going and saying these kinds of things belong in these category types, and this is really important. So you could essentially, and we'll show a demo, you can get a view that says, my customers seem to be talking about these organizations a lot, or these people a lot, or these brands or commercial items a lot. The next one is key phrases. So as I said, more common noun phrases. So if I'm looking at this sentence, I know they're talking about books and blenders, things like that. One of my favorite examples is we were working with one of our customers, and they were going through and product reviews for they list properties on a site, and they were saying, everybody seems to like this one listing, and we used your service, and what we realized is they love the beautiful pond out back. That's not something that was in the summary, but it was in the comments, right? And it was found and extracted with the key phrase. And then there's sentiment, right? So sentiment, straightforward. Is it negative? Is it positive, right? So if this one in particular, right? Largely most of it is neutral, but the I love buying everything is obviously positive. So if you're a brand manager, if you're a customer support manager, these are really important things that you want to know. And lastly, the text is in English. The other capability area is topic modeling. Let's look at specifically what this gives you. So and we'll walk you through the demo, but what you would have fed in is you would have literally just pointed us at an S3 bucket of documents. That's it. And then you would have hit run, give it a job name. And then we will emit two views when we're done running the job. The first view is the keyword topic groups. Okay, so as you can see here, the topics are buckets of words, if you will, right? So you'll have a word bucket, you'll have a set of terms, and then we'll give you the weight of that term. So now you could instantly see, hey, I've said return to me 10 topic groups. Now you can see the bucket of words organized into 10 groups that help you understand that corpus of content, that set of documents. The next view that we give you is we tell you of all those documents, which ones map to which topic group. Right, so this is great, and we give you proportions. You could set your threshold yourself. This is amazing because like you could theoretically point this at a SharePoint folder and automatically know the 10 top topics that are across that document repository. And then if you want to go organize them, we even tell you the documents and how they fit into each topic. So you can just immediately take action. So it's topic modeling. So real quick, let's go ahead, let's switch over to the demo machine. So we announced this yesterday. We went live yesterday. For the folks that haven't seen this, this is in the console. This is for you to go use. You can go play with the service. What we have here is, let me collapse these. I think it's easier to talk about it. So the first thing we do, as we talked about, is we extract the entities. So this is that same set of text. And these are the entities we extracted. You can see organization, location, right? Starbucks is in there. Boeing is in there. So these are entities mapped to topics. Demetrius will talk to you about this in more detail, but the service is a REST API. We return to you well-formed JSON. So it's really easy to work with. And imagine, I literally walked up to this API. I didn't know what a model was. I didn't know what, really many concepts about data science. I just walk up and I submit text and I get these responses. You can see the key phrases here, as we talked about in the example: books, blenders. This is real live code. You could fire this up in your browser right now and start pasting in your own content. It's actually kind of fun. And of course, here you can see this statement as it is. This doesn't have the I love the delivery experience in it. It's neutral. Kind of just pretty informative statement. But if I went over here and I like tennis shoes. So if I said I love my Nikes, it's really positive. So we know that, we see that, we return that to you. And I urge you, go in, play with it, give us feedback, but this is sort of how sentiment works. Again, if you're a brand manager, you really want to know that. If I was a brand manager for Nike, I love the fact they love Nikes. I might see that they don't like the price and they shopped at a certain retail location. To kind of think about all those attributes that's in that text that I now can act on. Okay, I'll hand it over.
So yeah, I want to talk about the developer experience, pretty much the SDKs and how to use them. The SDK is available as of yesterday, and we have a CLI and we support all the languages as part of the AWS SDK, so you can use it in your applications. Let me describe a bit about the APIs and how we kind of group them together and what we're offering. We try to make sure that our APIs are simple to use and you can integrate them into your applications easily. So we're grouping them into synchronous and asynchronous APIs. So the synchronous APIs are more low latency calls that you can directly call our pre-trained models like language, entities, key phrase, and sentiment. And we are offering also, as you've seen, a batch API where you can batch multiple requests together and submit a synchronous API. We've seen that resonates more with people that integrate this application into data pipelines where the application is very throughput sensitive. The asynchronous API is mainly the topic detection, which, because we have to train a model on the data that you have provided in S3, you submit to us your S3 and you get back a specific ID that you are able then to poll for progress and list your jobs. And I can get into more details later. So you see here, this is a typical response of our language and our entity APIs. The language is very simple. We return the language code for one of the 100 languages that we return, and we also get a confidence score about the confidence that the model has in the prediction. So you can use this confidence right now as a way to set a threshold for your applications. If you care about highly accurate results, you can set a specific threshold and only discard and only keep the very accurate predictions. If you care about recall, about a bigger range of predictions, because this is what your application is, you can adjust the threshold accordingly. For entities, an interesting note is that we return the begin offset and end offset of the entities that we return alongside the text and the entity type and the score. We do that because we want to make sure that you know exactly the part of the text that the entity actually is on, because, for example, Amazon could be an organization, or in a different context, it could be a rainforest. So our models are trained to take context into account and want to make sure that you have this information in your APIs in order to build even richer applications. We tried to list here how to use the APIs in different languages. So here is an example in Python, for example. As you see, it is very simple. You first create initialize the Boto client, and then with just one line of code, you can call our detect entities API by passing the language code. The language code is required in these APIs, but you can stitch it together with the detect dominant language and have and integrate both together if you don't know the language of the text that you are processing. If you do, then it's much easier and you avoid the extra call. So you can use this API, you can use this code, for example, and simply integrate our natural language processing APIs into your glue pipelines, your Lambda calls, in the AWS ecosystem applications that you're building. Let's look at an example of a batch API. So in the batch API, we give you the option, as I said, to provide multiple requests, and synchronously, we will predict and run inference for all of them. And you can get back both the successful and the unsuccessful returns. So you can choose to, you can still get partial results and adjust your retry logic accordingly by iterating through the error list. And we have sample code for that in our documentation in order to integrate that. This is an example in Java. As you've seen in Java, you initialize the client. We try to be very creative with the text list that we provide here, but also very simple. Just by providing the text list array and the language code, you can easily iterate through the result list and return pretty much all the inference results that we have. Finally, I want to show a bit the topic modeling APIs that we have. This is a CLI example. The topic modeling API, as I said, is asynchronous, so you can trigger a start topic detection job. You can provide to us the number of topics that you want us to try to predict. It's an unsupervised model, so we're trying to make sure that by providing the number of topics that you give us, find the best allocation by running the LDA algorithm. You can specify a job name for you to be able to refer to the job, and then you can provide the S3 URI bucket, and we support two different input formats, one document per file, one document per line. That is, in the first case, each of your documents are in separate files, so we run our LDA algorithm on top of that. In the latter case, you have multiple files where each document is on a separate line. We've seen that, for example, the latter is better for shorter text, like tweets, etc. So we try to make sure that we support both formats in order for you to easily integrate it in your data pipelines without having to do extra pre-processing. And finally, when you call the start topic detection job, you'll get a job ID handler that you'll be able to call, describe, and list to be able to track the progress and see and get the output folder in order to get the output, the topics and the document allocations that Nino described earlier. So great. That's it.
Thanks. So one of the things I wanted to ask is, how many folks in the room are data scientists? Great. I love that. There's literally one or two hands that went up. How many of the folks in the room would consider yourselves analytics solutions builders in some dimension or form? Excellent. So now that we've covered the what, why we built it, what did we build, I think the most important thing for us to land in this session is what do you do? How do you work with this service? How do you think about this service in conjunction of a solution? So we like to think of this as comprehend AWS text analytics. So for the folks who haven't seen this is sort of how we represent all the investments that we're making in the AI team. This is our ML stack. So if you're coming in and you're really a data scientist and you want a healthy set of frameworks, you can come in at that level in the bottom part of the stack. Let's say that you're a data scientist or you're a solution builder or a data engineer and you really want help building machine learning models and you want help running those models, you can come in and there's things you can do there at the middle part of the stack. SageMaker is a great tool for this, right? Now let's say you're coming in and you're a data scientist that wants to save time. So maybe you don't want to train models. Maybe you don't want to write a model that translates text or a model that transcribes text. Let's say that you really want to just focus on building your data pipeline, building the views that matter to you, and making your data warehouse better, getting some really cool value out of that. Then you'll hang out and consume at the top part of the stack up here. So like I said, these are continuously trained machine learning models made available to you in really low friction ways. There's a couple really core common use cases that we see with customers. And if you have some new ones, and as we go along, give us feedback. We'd love to hear about it and build for it. The top use case is voice of customer analytics. So I was mentioning this. This is really understanding who's talking about your brand, who's talking to your company. You could even imagine just going through and like I said, we have one customer that's reading reviews and building personalized features for those customers and for every other customer to navigate and understand the products. So it's really capturing that natural language conversation. The next thing is that we have is that semantic search, right? So we have customers saying, hey, I'm an Elasticsearch customer today. I'm storing all of my call center incidents in this Elasticsearch bucket. We like to go through and kind of just see what's going on, to pull up some incidents, use some keywords that you would do with Elasticsearch. But what I'd really like to do is show me all the day's negative experiences. Show me all the call outcomes. Most call centers agents write a call outcome or summary that we've learned. And they'll say, show me the negative ones or show me the positive ones. So that's a really rich search predicate that you can now act on, right? So NLP, but going through Amazon Comprehend before you hydrate Elasticsearch is a great way to get more value out of the search experience. Knowledge management and discovery is the other third core pattern. So this pattern, in broad sense, we hear customers saying, hey, I've got a bunch of emails that I really want to understand what's being discussed. I want to understand what's being mentioned. These are customers that say, I've got a bunch of documents that come in. You can imagine a lot of us buy insurance, and where there's a lot of document form-centric business applications and processes that there's a lot of documentation being generated. This is a really easy way to just organize, right, to go through. And one thing I saved to go back is, if for the folks in the room, how many folks in the room have heard about topic modeling or LDA before? Awesome. That, and I've done it, it's really hard to build an LDA implementation. I usually get stuck on how many nodes do I need, what algorithm do I pick, how do you sort of make sure there's enough capacity to run this. We've wrapped this whole thing, and in like Demetrius just showed you, behind some really easy APIs, and then we built a console. So you can just go into this console and write zero code and run a topic modeling job. So I was showing you the API Explorer earlier. Now this is the topic modeling part. So I can literally just go in here without wiping the screen. And by the way, we have some sample data there, so you guys can all try this yourself. And this is it. This is all I really provide. I say, here's the S3 bucket with text files. Here's the input format. So that's either one document per line or one document per file, right? Just really simple stuff. How many topics do you want to get this corpus organized in? You could do 10, you could do 100, right? It's really up to you. And then you give it a job name because it's an asynchronous service, and we'll tell you when we're done. And then there's an S3 data output. The output is what I showed you earlier, those two schemas, those two views. One is the topics with the words. The other one is the documents mapping to topics. So we urge you to go in, take the sample data that we've provided, just check that little radio button, and then of course, sorry, the last thing left out is how do you want to authenticate yourself against the service, and then go ahead and run it, and it'll dump the output into an S3 bucket. You can open it up. There's CSV files and play with it. It's really neat. Okay. So I know this slide's busy, but let's narrate it because I think it's really, really important for how you think about using this service. On the far left-hand side of this slide, this is what we were talking about. These are the natural language experiences that your company's having today. These are coming in tweets. These are coming in Facebook posts. These are coming in comments and reviews. These could be coming in, like I said, they could be documents, like there's a business process and there's a document filled out. All of this data is coming in, and you're largely using, this is unstructured data, so you're using an unstructured and compliant store. So you're probably using S3, probably, or EFS. So you're dumping all these documents in there, all these text files. Now what's amazing is really you light up on the far right all of these analytics design patterns, right? So if you've got a varchar or a text compliant field, you can just dump all the entities or key phrases in there, and do things like work with Redshift to do grouping and trends and joining, correlating. I mean, that's your data warehouse now has comprehend. Right? You can now work with text in really rich ways. You can fire up Kinesis, which will show you a demo. These comments or reviews could be coming in near real time, and you're setting a predicate to go look for negative sentiment trending, and it fires an alert, pages your brand manager, says, "Oh guys, that new launch is going off the rails. Someone's got to do a blog post." Right? This is real stuff we're hearing. It's hilarious. So comprehend really sits in the middle of all this. It takes unstructured data, to kind of be dorky technical about it, and it provides structure. And then once it does that, the full AWS stack lights up. And then, so no matter what the pattern is, right? I mentioned ES, that's short for Elasticsearch. Now you're doing semantic, you're doing rich filtering. And then of course, EMR is a platform in itself. So you can move all this data and work with EMR. You could do clustering projects over there. Obviously you could work with Spark jobs, or you could use the graph for search implementations on EMR as well. So this is sort of how you think about this solution fitting in. Most of our customers have said that the way that they're really orchestrating or transacting the left to the right is through Glue. Glue has a job capability. You just write really simple Python script to, for each document, send to sentiment, get the response, write it to S3. You could use Lambda to coordinate that same thing I was mentioning, or whatever data integration or data developer tool that you use that coordinates job flows and supports our API. We're going to start aggressively working with partners. So if you guys have data orchestration or development tools that move data and you want this to work with Comprehend, send us a note. We're really going to focus on that. We want to make this thing super easy to use and build into your solutions. So one of the most important things, we tout about Amazon, we're really customer-centric. So we've been fortunate to work with some really great customers as we built Amazon Comprehend. So we've actually brought two today, and what we'd like to do is have them show you what they've built, how this is going to help their business. So with that, I'd like to bring up Min. Min's with Elementum. Welcome. Hello.
Thanks for inviting me, Nino. So,
pleasure. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, so I'm head engineer at Elementum. Right? So we are a supply chain management company. In this industry, in the last 30 years, it has not changed. Right? So we are here to make things better. Some of the customers are Fortune 100. To name a few, Johnson & Johnson, Dyson, and Office Depot. Right? And what we do, our software is provide a real-time, end-to-end platform that unifies the procurement, the logistics, manufacturing, and inventory management, which then lead to our product graph itself, right? Which we digitally map to our product academy. It's about $25 trillion, right? And that's where we enable, where our manufacturer to make smart decision, right? Really anticipate disruption, corrective, actions, and also convert volatility into opportunity, right? What does it mean for our customer, right? It's really help them with their operational excellence, really continue to improve it, right? To drive revenues, right? One of the things is deliver the right product on time. Let's take Johnson & Johnson. Imagine you have a drug that you need by a specific promised date. We want to make sure, ensuring that the product is delivered to you on time and is the right one, right? And also we want to proactively recommend alternate parts too, like chemicals that produce it, right? Where there's a disruption in the supply chain. And these where Amazon Comprehend will help us. We discussed it a little bit later downstream, but really the second part is, to wrap it up, is increasing cash flow, right? Reducing lead time, right, for our supply chain. And the same thing, the last, really monitor our suppliers, our partners, what is the actual performance versus the service level agreement that they have. Okay, so, so really excited to partner with Comprehend. So one thing, before we dive into what we did with Comprehend, we didn't want to discuss the requirement from Elementum point of view, right? Nina talked about the public content that we're scanning. We are scanning news, right? We talk about languages too. Johnson & Johnson is not just in North America, right? We are looking at APAC, at EMEA, right? So we're looking at different languages. We want to understand what's happening for our customer, right? Our system built a disaster awareness where we, like discussed earlier, we want to proactively recommend different things to help them with the operational excellence, right? And also business continuity, right? And also build a sort of continuous workflow for the supply chain that really keep the company moving. So I want to really bring up a use case, right, for how we use comprehend, where everybody heard about what happened to Hurricane Irma, right, on the East Coast. So one thing we talked about is Puerto Rico and how it affected everybody's lives, but there's a lot of vessels actually got stuck in the ocean waiting to dock into Miami, right? But what does it mean? So there's a lot of supply chain oracle out there talking about it, where we use comprehend really to discover the meaning. Is DHL has one of these vessels? Is FedEx or somebody that had this container belong to our customer? What does it mean? So we want to use comprehend to discover some of these meaning, relationship. We talk about entities, right? Sentiment, is it good? Is it bad? Is it ready to dock? Like, what's going on? And really build some sort of topics, right? And really, best part is we talk about how difficult it is to do NLP. Like, we have a data scientist in our organization, right? The team working with engineering operation spend enormous time just collecting the data, building the platform up, where comprehend itself really help us continuous learning, right? Help us easy to categorize stuff, and at the same time really fully manage our operation, right? So these were how we use comprehend, right? Analyze the news itself, looking at our Elementum data set, right? Taking some of these meaningful topics, meaningful sentiment, provide sort of corrective action or anticipation for our customers and how they could resolve the issues, right? So if we go to the next slide. On the high-level architecture, right, so we toss everything in S3. Everybody uses S3, we use Athena and everything else, right? Comprehend, process it, give us the results. And the best part is where in learning, our system itself, the user application, need to feed back to the system. We're going to continue to work with Nino and team to figure out how to make the model learn, because we have custom model that we have ourselves, but where we offload a lot is the basic topics, right? Does it mention Dyson? Does it mention Johnson & Johnson?
Where?
Where they are, right? Where the geolocation are. Yep. So this something is less on our effort, where we're going to be more focused on our business use case, right? And instead of the stuff that's coming out of the box.
Yep, that's great. That's great. And I love the whole workflow. You know, it really just nails the story around content coming into an inexpensive, scalable store, using comprehend. You guys are extracting all these insights that affect supply chain, and you're querying it and you're reporting on it, and it's great. Yeah. It's been a real pleasure to partner with you guys. Yeah,
thanks.
Great. Thanks, Ben. Thanks so much. I actually remember the day that Min and I were all chatting, and I went home that night and I was thinking, oh my gosh, supply chain software is reading the news. You know, and it seriously, it dawns on you, you're like, this supply chain software is reading news and understanding events, like geopolitical events, things that impact supply chain route planning, and it's awesome. It's awesome to see that. So, like I said, we're really lucky. We're working with some great partners. Our next partner is the team at Infor. They're going to come up on stage, talk to you a little bit about what they've built. So come on up, guys. Thanks.
Test. Thanks, Nino.
Do you want to just take a quick second? This is Rick and Manju. You guys want to introduce yourselves?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Rick Ryder. I'm a product director on our Infor group. We'll actually talk a little bit about what Infor is, but
I'm Manju Ganimasti, and I'm part of the technology stack development of Infor.
Yeah, so just a quick overview to kind of set the scene of what Infor is. We are the third largest ERP software provider globally. We've got over 90,000 customers, over 71 million cloud users. Our strategy is mostly around micro verticals, so industry-focused software solutions. So think of food and beverage, manufacturing, aerospace and defense, those types of things we have highly focused solutions for. But across all of those different verticals, we have a core technology suite that Manju and I are a part of that comprises all these different technologies you see here. So on the UX side, we've got search or documents. We've got an iPaaS solution, an IoT solution, workflow solution, all of this across all of our different cloud suites. And we partner heavily with AWS. We started this journey with them over 4 years ago, and we are heavy users of a lot of their AI stack today. So some of our use cases will go a little bit more in depth as far as how this flows, but A lot of these you can sort of predict, right? We've got a huge repository of documents, but what we're ultimately trying to do is extract a lot of that sentiment and relationships across those documents to create more knowledge. We're also using it as a part of search, so being able to create a better search experience based on the output from Comprehend. And finally, also looking at our chat platform. So how can we, transcribe those messages between employees and unlock that 90% of knowledge within the organization to, create more knowledge maybe for a digital assistant in an AI context.
Thanks, Rick. So for Infor, we deliver a lot of business applications and for different verticals, different business domains. And so our group provides the base technology for all of our business applications, and it's called InfoOS. And three of the components that are there in this InfoOS are the document management and search and the chat platform. So these are three of many other common components we have in the InfoOS platform. So coming to the unstructured data, so which is primarily documents, one of the cloud suites we have is the human capital management, and one of the use cases of that is the performance reviews, right? So there is a lot of performance reviews in the HCM system stored over historical data, and it's all in text. And one of the use cases for us is to use NLP to analyze that and to provide the inputs to our HR representatives of our customers to see how the analysis was done, either from the employee perspective or from the manager's perspective. So that's one use case. And we store, so our document management system is based on S3, so all our documents are stored in S3. And so we intend to use those documents, use NLP to process them, and give feedback to the HR users. So that's just one use case among many that we have.
Yeah, and one other quick use case that I think is a pretty sexy use case. We work with the Brooklyn Nets. So one thing that we're looking at utilizing Comprehend for is we've got all these NBA contracts, and how can we compare that and understand what's contained within those and compare it against the 700-page legal CBA and be able to offer a solution to where now NBA teams can quickly negotiate contracts or open up free agency and make those quick deals using this technology. So that's another use case.
That's pretty cool.
The second one is the search. So, in ERP systems, search is like you want to search for a purchase order. You give a number or an ID of a purchase order, and you just keep your fingers crossed that you get what you asked for. But in Google, the search is natural language based. So if I need to go drive from from here to Los Angeles, I just say how much time does it take to drive from here to Los Angeles, and you get the data actually. So we want to get our search to be as good as that, so with natural language. So we would like our users to provide inputs to us for search in a spoken language, and we want to use Comprehend to analyze that string and to be able to convert that string into something that we can feed to Elasticsearch. So that's one area where we are exploring to use Comprehend. And in addition to that, we also have data in graph database. So we would like to analyze what is the relationships that is there based on the information we get from entities and key phrases to build some relationships, and also to query the graph database to get meaningful results to our users. The last one is the chat. So we have a chat platform of our own, so that is part of our InfoOS. And there is a lot of, and this is intended for the employees of our customers who are basically enterprises. And we are planning on feeding this information, this chat inputs or whatever text conversations that happen, and feed it through Comprehend, and to be able to create a knowledge base. Because if somebody is asking a question on like how do I create a purchase order and somebody responds, so we can gather all that information, run it through Comprehend, and build a database out of it, so that in future, if somebody has a question on our search, so like how do I create a purchase order, so we can tap into that data. We can recommend that this person knows this step as to how to do it, etc., so that we can make our search results better, and also to build a better knowledge base to the enterprises.
Yeah, and right along with that last kind of use case Manji was going through is ultimately what this is feeding is our entire AI concept in Infor Coleman, which is our digital assistants, it's our machine learning, it's everything. It's our entire AI strategy. So using Comprehend to sort of redefine and evolve our knowledge base is really helping us sort of revolutionize our AI strengths.
It's fantastic. It's been great to work with you guys. So look forward to going forward.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys. Working with Elementum and Infor, it dawns on you that the investments we're making in things like Comprehend, you guys heard about translate, transcribe, applications are becoming intelligent. Applications can see, applications can hear, and applications can read. And I love the stories for both of our customers and how their applications are understanding, they're contextual, and they're becoming intelligent, smart applications. It's great stuff. So I think we're doing okay on time. We want to show one more thing. How are we doing on time? I don't, because the clock's not working up here. All right, 20 minutes, great. Okay, so we have time for a Q&A. Let me come back over here. I'll get this machine going. So one of the things that we like to do is run our own stuff. So we built a demo, which is really interesting for. I like to show this because I think it kind of just shows you how charting, reporting, analytics just becomes smarter. So what we did here is we built a solution. I have the architecture in the next slide. Where we were pulling in tweets from the Twitter fire hose, and we're looking at everything. Let me actually show you that first, and then we'll come back to the demo. So what we were doing is we're pulling in all these tweets from Twitter. We're just looking for the ones that mention us, just AWS or reInvent. We're using the Kinesis fire hose to help us transact that. We're using Lambda as a coordination capability for the workflow or the pipeline, and it's sending all these tweets to Comprehend. And then we're taking that output and we're writing it to S3. So now we've got this really interesting data set of all of the Comprehend output for tweets. And then what we did is we fired up, you could use Tableau, you could use Excel, Power BI, whatever. In this case, we're using QuickSight. And we've built Athena queries and views over this S3 bucket. Stuff's all built in, no custom code, nothing. We just did this all in QuickSight. And so we built this solution, and it's been really fun and really interesting to play with, and it definitely helped us dog food our own stuff. So what you're seeing here is our real tweets coming in over the course of the event that break down the most discussed entity categories. So on the right, you can see a lot of tweets. It's a marketing event, organizations, prominent people. Usually we've got really famous people, popular people speaking. You can see that, title, software, events, locations, these are all entity categories extracted. And then they're all being broken down, and these are the most discussed entities. So, of course, no surprise AWS, but you can really start to get a nice breakdown. So it's actually obviously a software event, so let's do something interesting here. Let's sort this view, and let's see what software titles are mentioned the most. So all I really did is I just said, hey, go into the entity category software titles, and then just it's really just a quick count and sort. And it's really interesting, just at a very quick glance, you can see that, there's things like, Linux is important, JavaScript. I'm not surprised by S3. I'm not surprised by EC2. I do think it's interesting that Lambda is that popular, right? So Lambda is being talked about, is one of the most talked about things in the sets of tweets that we've been pulling off the Twitter fire hose. This is super important. Now, as a Lambda product manager, and I know that product manager is excited, they're going to go dive in to say, what are they saying? Like, give me the keywords extracted. Let me go build a view. Are they positive? Are they negative? Turns out they're a little bit positive, right? This application itself is actually multilingual. We're actually using Translate to pull in tweets from other languages. We're translating them, and then we're running those through Comprehend too. So we're getting things like German tweets, French tweets, Spanish. We support Spanish tweets. So it's just really interesting to see what you can do with a service like this. And this is a super basic, analytics solution that most of us have been building over and over, right? Those sets of components. So we thought it was really interesting. We wanted to kind of just take some time to show you this. And we'll save time for a Q&A too. We'll go back. Okay, so the call to action. So we spent time on that portal. Definitely log in, play with the portal, paste in your own stuff. It's really cool. We're fully integrated into the AWS SDK, fully integrated in Bot 03, so you can start if you want to write Python. It's super easy to do. The service itself is free to try. We got a really nice free tier there. Like I said, you can invoke it, no code in the portal. You can run text analytics with no code. And then, so you can go ahead and get started today. The service pricing is just as everything else at Amazon. It's really transparent. Pay for what you use. And we charge you in little billing units for characters. Again, we give you a really healthy free tier, so you could pretty much play with it as, for your use case. The AWS SDK also includes code samples. Demetrius and I were just huddling, like we're going to try to make the solution we just showed you open source. You can go play with that. We're going to keep adding samples. So definitely, follow us, follow the forum, tweet us, hashtag comprehend, and we'll announce to you what's going on. First and foremost, we really appreciate your time today, and especially our partners. Thanks so much for coming up and showing how you guys are building against the service. So that's Amazon Comprehend. Thank you. Great. Yep. So we get the feedback a lot. So that's actually a good question. So the question is, what is the support for document types? Right now it's text. We are getting other popular document types like Word docs, PDFs coming in. It's things we're thinking about. So we plan on looking at that. Let's just fire away. Go ahead. Vlad, do you want to come on up, Vlad?
How do you handle emojis, like or in tweets and stuff?
It's great. So right now we don't support emojis. It's something again we're thinking about. We've talked to a number of customers that are not only emojis but also icons that represent a feeling. It's really interesting. We're talking to one of our customers in Japan. So we don't support that yet, but it's something we're thinking about.
I don't think that's sort of specifically tricky because depending on the domain you're working in, you might need different models, right? So what are the domains that you support at the moment?
So great question. So let me repeat it. So the question is, and we're talking to you about how to train an NLP model. The first thing you do is you want to think about a domain like, what are the entities that you'll find in a domain? So for example, the entities that you might extract if you're working with legal documents is different than entities you extract if you worked on marketing with like brands and companies. So here's how we think about it. So we built this service to cover, we went broad. Let me put it that way. So we went really broad. Our first approach is to go broad, to get people's, organizations, brands, things like that. We hear a lot about what you're saying. We hear customers say, well, I want you to go deeper into my vertical. I want you to know more about legal or insurance. We are thinking about that quite a bit, right? So I think the way to think of it is let's keep that conversation going. I think it's something that we think about and we plan on talking to you more about. It's a common model right now, though.
On the console example, you showed a limit of 100 topics for the LDA.
That's just oh, yes.
Is there a reason why it's a limit of 100 topics?
Right. So we actually, what I didn't tell you is we built our own LDA algorithm, and it's fairly new. I don't think that limit's going to stay there forever. We're gonna take the feedback. So give me your feedback on what limit you want to see there. Right now, that was really just a quality perspective. Just make sure we can really nail this with up to a certain topic range. Sorry.
Is that LDA algorithm the same one that's used in SageMaker?
So that's a great question. So SageMaker is going to give you options of LDA algorithms. So I don't think they'll just do one. So this one in particular is one of our proprietary ones, right? But SageMaker will offer you a variety of LDA models.
And to add more notes to this, also in our LDA implementation, we also have pre-processing stages to add lemmatization, stop-word removal, in order to make sure that the topic quality is better than just using an algorithm. So it depends on your level of depth. If you have something very specific, you can go to SageMaker and build an application by yourself, or you can try the fully managed solution based on the things that we think that will increase the accuracy.
Sure.
One of the corpus documents where I would know a certain amount of topics that I would expect to see. some of the content is actually tagged semantically. In plain text files, do you guys recognize like XML type tags? And can I tell the algorithm, here are some topics that I know you'll probably find?
So the question was, can we recognize like XML elements, like XML tags?
Right.
Yep. So you can throw it at the service. I don't suggest it. We haven't optimized to do syntax extraction, if you will. So I would just keep it plain flat text for now. But if that's a capability, I'd love to hear more about it, like kind of extracting the syntax. And then what was the follow-up question? You had one about?
If I have a list of topics that I know are probably going to be in there, so like it's travel data, so I would know that there are certain destinations and certain companies that I would expect to find in it. Would that in any way help to train, or is there anything else to be accepted as input?
That's a great. So right now it's an unsupervised model. We're going to kind of run it. We'll return back to you the topic buckets as we've sort of, as Dimitri said, we've sort of built it and tuned it. You can think about running it through the entity extractor first, and then sort of using that output, joining that output, the topic output. But right now it's just really unsupervised. We'll kind of just give you back the groups as we see them.
There's no feedback to say this is good, that's not good.
What do you mean to feedback?
If it finds a topic like, no, I'll call it that.
Okay, what it does just to,
Fine for anybody else.
okay, that's fine. What it does is it will just give you the topic groups and give you the keywords and the weights. And then if you don't like it, you can go back and try more topics, less topics to find the keyword fidelity you want. But let's play with it when we're done.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Combining actually probably a couple of questions there. Is there a roadmap where you guys are looking at with the transfer learning stuff? So basically, you've got this really powerful underlying model, almost like a image net out there. Are you guys looking with SageMaker at making that model available for people to train on industry, like sense like this, sense like labeled insurance data, stuff like that? So like doing a not hot dog on top of VGG.
Okay, it's a great question. Let me repeat it because it's an important one. So it was another question around our ability to extend this model that we've built for your specific vertical, your specific knowledge set. The answer today is that we hear this loud and clear. We don't really disclose roadmap stuff, but we hear it. We think about it a lot. The answer today is if you want to go into training your own model and extending it and for your specific industry, SageMaker is a great tool. And then you could use the ecosystem of annotation training tools available to you. And if you want a common model that you want to invoke today for the entity categories or the key phrases we've described, that's how we're sort of articulating those two things today. But we hear the feedback. Yeah. Sorry.
So, two questions. One is, what's typical latency on calling for kind of short strings of text? The second one is, you mentioned languages.
Yeah.
You said you're going to recognize multiple languages, but then you also said in your demo you're using Translate. And so I'm thinking the reason is if I want to get common result sets across different languages, I have to pre-translate. If you have input on different languages, is it going to just return back in the source language and not?
Yeah. Okay, so let me. You want to take the latency first? I'm going to come back to languages.
Yes. In terms of latency, the latency right now depends on input size. So as the input size grows, you would expect a bigger latency, but it's in the few hundreds. And we're actually monitoring it very closely to make sure that there are no variability in the latency that you will get. And as part of the plans, we want to make sure that this is our models are very optimized and they meet the latency guarantees. So,
if you have really like low latency requirements, lower than he's mentioned, I'd love to talk to you about it in your use case. So the second question was really was a great one around language support. So I'll start from the top, work down. The APIs the synchronous APIs we walk through support English and Spanish today. Obviously, we know there's more languages. We've got a pretty aggressive roadmap to address those going forward. We don't really have anything to specifically mention today, but we're going to support more languages officially. The language ID service will just identify the language. That supports up to top 100. And then, as I mentioned, Amazon Translate is preview. Okay, so it's a preview service. We've seen that you can translate first and use comprehend. We're not giving official guidance yet to do that, candidly. If it works for you, that's amazing. Use it. But I think the official guidance is English and Spanish. If translate works, great. Otherwise, we'll just keep following up. I'd love to hear from you on your language requirements. We're kind of building that roadmap now.
The sentiment analysis is kind of a summary. You'll be able to open it up so that we can get the individual sentiment as you go through the text and waiting for that sentiment.
Yep. Let me repeat. It's a great question. So right now we've built sentiment. It applies like kind of the corpus of document or at a sentence level. The question was, can we get down to entity-based sentiment? So like, you were talking about, I really like my iPhone, but I hate the price, right? So you want to be able to actually differentiate those two items of sentiment. The service right now is sentence-based. We're thinking about quite a bit around entity-based sentiment in the future. So, sir?
In terms of topic modeling, can a document be classified as part of two separate buckets, two separate topics? As an example, let's say I have a set of documents about coffee, a set of documents about tea, and then I have a document that says I love coffee and I love tea. Would the last document be classified in terms of being part of both?
Yes, it would. I can take that. So the LDA as a topic extractor, actually you will get as part of our results a list of document to topics, and it's one to many. So for each document, you can see the assignments to each topic with an associated weight. So if, for example, you mainly talk about tea and you have few sentences about coffee, you could also see that on the weight assignment.
Okay.
Does sentiment include intensity for the processing?
Not right now. It doesn't. The question was, does sentiment include intensity? It doesn't right now. We give you like a confidence score, right? So, and I think that's really like like I think I showed you. You'll know how positive or how negative it is, but we don't do we don't do it.
That's your confidence in your assessment of good or bad, not I'm really, really pissed off or I'm just a little pissed.
True. Right now we don't support that use case. Yeah, of someone being really, really, really mad. Yeah.
The confidence at
It's
the
a great
label level.
feedback though. Yeah.
I have not a great question, but important, I think, for all of us. Is healthcare one of the domains that you're considering, and what is your path to capable compliance?
So I'll take the domain one. You can take the HIPAA one. Okay. So it's a common model right now. So if it works for you in healthcare, use it. Down the road, we'll figure out how to make this extensible for you. So that's sort of our answer for healthcare. So it's just, we really try to have this common model do people, locations, organizations, things like that. So it depends on your healthcare use case. It could really work for you, right? But if you want to go deeper into drug types or things like that, right, it wouldn't be an ideal model for that at this time.
Clinical notes, 70% of clinical relevant information is in written notes and cannot be used easily.
Yep. Well, that's the thing is, it depends on what you want to extract from those clinical notes. So like the key phrase API may work really well for you at this point, right? So I urge you to the devil's in the details around what you want extracted from that text. But if you're looking for something that's like highly custom for your specific healthcare needs, I think SageMaker is an excellent thing to look at.
And on HIPAA eligibility, we cannot comment on dates, but we are actively working on it, so you should expect news.
I just needed to know that it's on the roadmap.
What we say is we're thinking about these things actively.
The classic problem, have you tried how it handles sarcasm?
So I've got this one too. So we're not very good at. So it's a very. It's a very straightforward, I think, sentiment service right now. Sarcasm's tough because without getting into examples, like some people might really like a certain politician, some people might not, right? So it's an incredibly hard problem right now. I think it's more around, do I not like, do I hate, how was the experience, right? So we don't really support that use case. It's also really contextually specific, right? So Twitch, the massive gaming portal, is they're an Amazon company, but we work with them as a customer. They literally, we were cracking up. It was a real bloodbath. It's actually really positive on Twitch. They're like, that game was amazing. That that sentiment on CNN is the worst thing you've ever heard, right? So it's very contextual to that, but today we really give you sort of that black and white view around that customer's experience of the brand, product, or service using those sentiment descriptive words. I'm really glad we did the Q&A. This is excellent. All right. Yeah.
So when you do sentiment, are you like doing the word count model, or are you more on the contextual semantic?
Oh, the sentiment comes fully from the MXNet model underneath, under the contextual model too. Yeah, it's not a regex or anything.
Yeah, it's a deep learning based contextual model,
Which sets us up to get more contextual and better over time, right? So we'll start to handle some of these better conditions. But wrap it up. Okay, I'm getting there. Get off the stage. So thanks everybody. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.